Welcome to BeachLife UnLocked, episode number 9. My colleague Mike Dotson, myself Mitchell David. Today we're going to talk about something a bit controversial, and that's going to be clear cooperation. In a nutshell, Mike, what's clear cooperation in your mind?
So basically, I'll tell you what it is from NAR, National Association of REALTORS, says that any property that is publicly marketed has to be put into MLS, multiple listing service, which then goes out to a multitude of other websites for everyone and anyone to be able to see and make offers on if they so choose.
Right, and so we do have a window, though. I think, what is it, within 48?
One day.
With 24 hours?
So within 1 day of being publicly marketed, it has to be put into the multiple listing service.
Right, so once we get a listing, we have a client sign, there's a whole bunch of forms we have to sign, and then we have a specific time frame, 24 hours, to get that up and running for the general public to see if we're going to enter it into the MLS. Now, are there some off-market ways to do this as well? So when we say off-market, what we're talking about is you could call it a pocket listing, you could call it a brokerage listing, you could call it a whole bunch of numerous different things, but typically what that means is it's not actually being advertised on the MLS. Not
out to the public. It's not open for anyone to see.
Correct.
So, I think the idea of the clear cooperation policy is to get rid of pocket listings.
Correct.
And so, I mean, that is still an option, though, for sellers if they so choose, that they don't want their property out for anyone to see. They only want to select group of people. And I think the issue with that is, then are you getting into housing discrimination, essentially?
I'm thinking of it that way. I guess potentially.
I think potentially. Inadvertently, I think that is what the argument is. So, I'm not a fan of pocket listings because I think, as a seller,
because you don't get any.
Okay, first of all,
no, but this is the back and forth.
I think for a seller, it has to. I mean, the obvious, to me, I would think obvious, is to be able to get it out to as many people as possible. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of arguments against it, and some good points, honestly. So I think a lot of this stems from California, where you have a lot of celebrities, celebrity divorces. They don't want their private information, what they consider to be private information, out there for everyone to see, and so I think they ask. A lot of them want to be able to. Okay, look, we're going to sell the house. We have to divide the marital property or whatever it is, but we don't want everyone to know about it.
Well, that's different. That I can see that for. So
right, I think that's an argument against the clear cooperation.
Correct. So here's the controversy, right? And again, this is agent versus agent, seller versus agent type of thing, and then buyer trying to figure out what to make of it. And so the controversy is that some agents would say to you, no, the best thing ever is a pocket listing, and if you're unable to get a pocket listing, then you're just really not doing what you're supposed to be doing as an agent to form those relationships. Where I'm completely opposite on this. That's great that you can get a pocket listing, but again, the goal is not for you to make money. I mean, it is the goal for us to make money, but the goal is for us to make our sellers money
and get the best deal possible.
Terms and conditions, right? Because let's be honest, it's not always the amount of money that's the best the best deal. Sometimes it's no home inspection.
You need to sell quick, and you have a quick close.
Exactly. There's no contingencies, no financing, no inspection. Offer. Exactly, those things. So again, we're going to kind of delve into this to see. I'm kind of curious to see what Mike's position on this. It sounds like he's pretty similar to mine. Whereas I think clear cooperation is great. I do think there are certain circumstances where a seller who does want to keep some privacy and understands that they could be taking a less favorable deal. I can understand that.
So tell me one situation where you think it would be in the seller's best interest, or maybe in their mind at least, to not have it put out to the entire world.
Yeah, I think going back to your initial thing, I think somebody who may be going through a divorce, who may be a public figure, may not be an actor, could be any type of famous person who has a lot of money.
Politician or something.
Politician.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a lot of custody battle for the kids.
CEO of
they don't want people in and out of their house. Because again, when we go to clear cooperation, we also are saying that you, the seller, have to make your property available for showing. Right. So I think in that situation where it could be a divorce, it could be some child custody issues, it could be access issues, I think in that situation, it lends itself to possibly be a pocket listing, exclusive listing.
Let me ask you this: do you think it would be even in a situation like that? Do you think it would be in the best interest of the seller to maybe open it up a little bit more than just an exclusive listing within a brokerage? I mean, there are brokerages that are massive, right? They have hundreds of agents that you can open it up to. So in that situation, you're still kind of opening it up to the public.
No, I mean, I think here's the game. So that's why I like the back and forth. This is the game. This is what I think the lack or pocket listings are for. It's for the bigger brokerages, right, to shove out the smaller brokerages, because now they're going to say, hey, look at us, we have all the listings, we're going to sell your property. And right? So again, this is the conspiracy theory person in me that goes this way, because I truly do. I mean, again, there really isn't any situation, or there isn't any way to gauge if a pocket listing actually got you the best terms and conditions. There's not.
Yeah, no, unless it's open to everyone and everyone's able to make an offer on it, you're not going to know for sure. I mean, it's possible you can get a great deal,
but you're not going to know, because you didn't put it out to the public, and the public didn't get a chance to speak. Right. And so again, if I'm being honest and having a conversation to buyers and sellers and to other agents, is that a pocket listing has some value in certain circumstances, but overall, I truly believe, just like everything else, you need to put it out there to the consumers to see what that property is truly worth.
In the open market.
In the open market, and let the open market decide that.
Now, I guess one of the arguments against the CCP, the Clear Cooperation Policy, would be like antitrust. Like if let's say, we're with, I don't know, pick a massive, agency, brokerage. We're with one of them, and I have a buddy who's down the street at a small boutique brokerage, and I'm like, yeah, man, tell them about this listing or whatever. Now they can't bring a buyer to it. That person's now put out of the market, right? Would that not be an antitrust issue?
No, I'm not an attorney, so I can't speak of the antitrust. I think in a pocket listing, it depends on how it's written up, but it's not that it can't be, another brokerage can't be brought in. Okay. There may not be cooperation commission for it, or there may not be. So again, the way it works, so back in 2005 and 2006, when the market was super crazy, when a lot of us had pocket listings back then, the difference back then was you would just make certain phone calls to certain agents and go, hey, by the way, if you have a buyer looking for this, here's what I got. Yeah. We can't put it on the market because for whatever reason back then. And again, to be honest, I mean, let's think this through. The person that benefits, or the people benefits, are the agents and the brokerages to keep it in-house. Yeah. And again, this is antitrust, so I'm not talking percentages. The question that I would have to ask the listing brokerage would be, are you giving an additional bonus for this property being sold in-house? Right?
Yeah, so now that opens up a whole other thing in my mind here. So we don't have clear cooperation, right? So you don't have another agent from other brokers. Let's say you're not offering a buyer's commission, right? We don't have to. I mean, even on an open market, you don't have to offer a buyer's commission. So why not open it up to the whole market?
Again, it's simple. That's what I'm trying to say. The reason, again, people are going to argue that I'm a great agent. I have great relationships. I have high-end clients.
Humble.
Right? No. I'm saying, Joe, this is the argument for those agents that are saying this. Is they're listing all the reasons why they want the pocket listing, and the one thing as a seller I would say to them is, well, that's great. If somebody comes to you and offers you, how do I know that's the best price and terms?
Exactly.
And as a listing agent, I have to look at them and be honest, and be like, I don't know. And I'll give you an example why. Back in 2005, when I was really in the heat of buying properties, a lot of times we would go right to a home, a seller, not even a seller. We would go up, knock on doors, and look at properties and say, hey, we want to buy this house. Well, now, back then, I wasn't an agent the way I am now, so there was different rules that I had to abide by because I was an investor, and so I was I didn't want that property to hit the market.
Right.
Right? I was trying to find off-market deals because why?
You save money.
I'm going to save money, right? And so that's the kicker. So again, because the seller doesn't know what they don't know. Right? And you're not going to know what your house is truly worth until you bring it into the full spectrum of the market.
Open it up to everyone.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, I don't think I could be convinced otherwise.
Yeah, I think you and I agree on that. So when it comes to sellers not wanting it on the open market, I think you touched on it earlier. They're going to have to accept that they're not going to know whether or not they're getting what their actual property is actually worth.
That's correct.
Right. They're going to have to accept that, and there may be many reasons to go that route. Yep. I haven't had it in my 5 years. So, but the last 5 years have kind of been, you want your property on the open market because
it's limited inventory, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so again, when there was a whole bunch of inventory, 1,200, 1,800 listings over here on the shore, it was a little bit different because things weren't moving fast. And so, people wanted to try the market, but they didn't want the property out on the market. So they would say, hey, we'll give you this listing for, 60 to 90 days and see what kind of activity you can get, because we really don't want to put it out there as we're selling. And so again,
now you're competing with all those other
competing with all the others, and everybody always, as a buyer, and you know this to be true, we always get the same phone call. I want a deal.
Everybody wants a deal.
And so everybody says, well, what do you have that's not on the market? Because they think that's a deal. Well, think about that for a second. If the buyer thinks an off-market property is a deal, as a seller, why would I want my property to be off-market?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And again, I mean, I know this is going to upset some. It's going to upset the bigger brokerages, again, because obviously in my opinion, again, I don't have any inside knowledge about the bigger brokerages. I'm just saying historically what you type of see is they're more for the not clear cooperation, and they would like to have those pocket listings again.
Keep everything in-house, double-sided.
In-house. You get both sides of the commission if they're offering both sides, but you at least get the full, and it's all in-house. And so again, that's how we get ranked, right? Is how much did you sell this year,
right?
And so again, everybody needs to look at the end of the day. For me, I say this all the time, I try to read the tea leaves. Like, why is this such a big deal?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest argument is some of the stuff I've been reading on this, just to kind of make sure I'm clear on what people are saying. The biggest argument is they want to keep it in house, right? I think it was Compass CEO. I think he was saying like we shouldn't have to. We have sellers that want to keep their property off market. We shouldn't be forced to put it out publicly.
I'll agree. I would say if a seller understands, if they've been explained,
it's got to be explained to them.
I agreed. If I don't have a problem with the seller deciding what they want to do with their property. We talked about with the rentals, right? We're not in the business of telling people what they should and shouldn't do with their real estate, honestly. But I don't think it's explained the 100%.
Yeah.
I think here's how it goes.
You have to fully understand what you're giving up.
Correct.
When you're going off market.
Yeah, because here's the pitch. Hey, I've got 20,000 people in my database. I sell $25 million a year. I've got buyers always looking for properties. I can get you a quick full price offer that best suits you. Do you want me to do that for you? The answer is probably going to be
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I didn't tell you was this. Hey, if we put it on the market, I may be off a little bit on my pricing, and you might get better terms and conditions. So are you still okay with me keeping it in my pocket, or do you want to test the market?
Well, you keep that to yourself as if you want to keep it in your pocket and be the one to bring, in some states like in Delaware, you can bring the buyer and represent both sides.
Correct.
Double-sided deal. So, in states like that, now you're self-serving.
Correct.
Right, but aren't we supposed to be serving the seller and the buyer?
It's greed.
Yeah,
No bones about it. It's greed. And again, there are extenuating circumstances that a seller would like to keep it private, in-house, all those things, and I'm all for that. But I think in general, the other 98% of properties being listed should be clear cooperation. And I'm not saying that the seller has to offer a commission. It's not what I'm saying. Which I think is in your best interest. Again, it sounds self-serving, but again, it's part of incentivizing a buyer brokerage to show your property, get them in there. And again, it just helps out with marketing purposes. So, but to go back to the clear cooperation, I don't want to go down that road. I really have no desire. I mean, we can if we need to, but I find it hard to believe that if explained to a seller properly, that's not going through an extenuating circumstance, there's any way on God's green earth that they would be like, sounds great, don't advertise my property.
No, so I would say that we've already admitted that there are circumstances where being off market, being a pocket listing as a seller makes sense, right? In a market like we're in Ocean City, where you have a building, you might have a building with 300 units in it, right? Let's say there's 5 units that are publicly, they're out there, they're on the market, everyone can see that they're for sale, and you have somebody that wants to sell, but they don't want to go to the open market, right? How does that benefit that seller if people know there's 5 other ones in here, right? And you've got one that's off market. How are you going to be able to compete with those?
Yeah, again, you have to rephrase.
I don't think it makes. What I'm saying is, I don't think it makes sense like in our market.
Correct.
There may be markets that an off market or a pocket listing makes sense. Here,
But then I'm going to ask you, make that argument for it to make sense. Give me a market, and we'll do a hypothetical market. What market does that look like? I can't think of a market that makes any sense in.
I think a market like New York or LA, it makes sense.
Why?
Because you have so many celebrities or people of high wealth.
Oh, you're saying with the extenuating circumstance then?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Yeah, I think it's good. There has to be something, a celebrity in LA or New York that doesn't want everyone to know that they're selling their house, or they don't want everyone to know they're getting divorced, or whatever it might be.
Correct. Okay.
It makes sense.
So we're going back to.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying
okay.
I think it goes market to market it's my argument here.
Well,
it depends on the market where.
I wouldn't say it depends on the market. I would think it depends on who your sellers are, right? Because you could have that.
I think a lot of that revolves around what market they're in. Because
we're going. Okay, fair enough. I mean, again, the New York market's going to have more potential to have what you're saying.
Yeah.
The Ocean City market. I got you. I thought there was a specific example. You were going to give me a market where it's advantageous for a seller.
I don't know those markets, right? I work in this market, so I'm just speaking from an outsider, where I could see the argument for. Being off market or being a pocket listing, not advertising to the public,
right?
In those areas,
and for those situations, right? For those situations,
because you're going to have that more often than like you said, like here.
What's your thought about the larger brokerages? Because again, we talk about this. We like to make sure that the market kind of decides where we are.
Yeah.
Because there is no true patent way to list a property, right? You can't say 100% sure.
You can gather as much information as possible, but the market's going to tell you whether or not you're right or wrong.
That's correct. And so, and all of us have stats that will say, hey, we're 97% from our list price to our sales price. We all have that information. And for the most part, most agents are going to be, again, this is a bit of a different market where things were selling over, but we're all going to be in that 3 to 5% within the list price, right? If it's grossly overpriced and we're way over, there's probably some other extenuating circumstances. But what I'm saying is, there's no exact way to list a property. So there is no agent, in my opinion, that could look at a seller and go, I know exactly what this house is worth.
What's going to sell for.
I know exactly what's going to sell for, because they don't know all the buyers, and they don't know all the buyer situations, and their needs and their wants, and that at that specific time, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could. It's your best guess is what it is. You know, if a house, you know, let's say 5 houses in a neighborhood sell within, 5 days each, right? Their average days on the market is 5 days, and you come in, you say, okay, well that house sold. The average sales price here was $500,000. We're going to list you at $499.9, right? And you're going to sell within 5 days. Well, that thing sits for 15 days. How pissed is your seller going to be?
Yeah, because all the buyers that were looking potentially in that area already bought, and then they've moved to different areas. And this goes back, and look, I'm happy to talk about my failures because it only makes me better as I get longer. But we've talked about the one where the seller called me up and told me exactly what she wanted for the property, and I gave her the comps, I gave her all the numbers, and I looked at her and I told her I just can't.
The market's not going to bear this.
I don't feel that I'm going to be able to get you that kind of stuff. Money. I don't want to lie to you. She listed it with a different brokerage, and she got in one day a full price offer, right? The number she wanted.
Yeah.
But guess what? Now there's 3 properties in that same building that are selling for way less than what she did, and one of them is in even better condition.
Sitting days on the market, just accumulating.
Point being is, you only need one buyer. And you don't.
And there may only be one buyer.
And there might only be one buyer for that property, and you don't know what that buyer is willing to do to get that property. And so for a pocket listing, for somebody to say, hey, I have a true and tested in-house pocket listing formula that's going to yield you the most, I would argue there's no way to prove that correct.
Yep.
They cannot look at you straight in the face and go, if I took it to market, I wouldn't get a penny more, or I wouldn't get a better terms and conditions with no contingencies. I just don't think they can do it. Look, I could be wrong.
Not with a straight face. You'll never know unless you actually go.
Right, and if I'm wrong, please call me on the phone. I would love to have a conversation, right? Heck, I would even bring you in to have the conversation back and forth. Because obviously Mike and I are on the same page on this, which is not unusual for us to kind of be on the same page for a lot of those things. But I was kind of curious, because this is a big topic of conversation right now. It's huge.
Yep. There's lawsuits. The Department of Justice is attacking NAR over this policy. It's exact policy.
Right. Because they believe that it's restricting competition, and I would argue that it's not. It's opening it up.
Yeah.
Right? So if you just let, and again, here this would be me trying to see in the future. If they take, no, I do not have a crystal ball. And again, you never know. If
anybody has a crystal ball, we're looking for one.
Yeah, we're looking for one, and let us know what the next market is, so then we can capitalize ourselves individually as well. And that's why I was joking with a buyer the other day. When agents always say, "I know," no, you don't. Because if you knew,
it's your best guess.
You would have bought in 2020, and you'd have bought everything up and sold it back in 2022.
If I knew in 2018 what I know now,
you would not be.
I wouldn't be sitting.
He would be sitting here with me, but because again, we only know what we have with the data that we then look into. And again, we're numbers people. We work all the time. We try to find the best information possible to gather for our clients, for them to make the best decisions. But we're never 100% correct. We'll be darn close. In some
pretty close.
Pretty close in some certain instances. But we'll be wrong as well. And again, that's just part of it. So what I'm trying to figure out is how many big brokerages would like to do away with the clear cooperation, because I think it's in their best interest.
Yeah, most of them would probably want to do away with it, so you keep everything in house. And it's all about greed, honestly. Like you said before, it does go back to being greedy, which is why I think brokerages like ours, small, we only have 10 agents or whatever. I think our goal is actually help. I like to think that that's what we're doing. We're helping people get the best deal possible, whether it's buying or selling. those bigger brokerages, they're about numbers, right? They're bringing as much as you can. That's what their goal is, and for their investors as well. They're trying to maximize their returns. So for people like us, I think we're actually helping. I mean, like I said before, I just keep going back to that, but I feel like my goal, I tell people all the time, if you buy, great. If you don't, great. Right? If it doesn't make sense for you, I don't want anyone to buy anything that they don't feel like this is the right thing for me, right unit for me or whatever. I'd rather you not buy if you're unsure.
Right, and just for those who are watching, are like, well, they're saying all this because they work at a smaller brokerage. Guess what? We could leave tomorrow.
Yeah, right. I've been at a bigger brokerage.
Right, and so
I came from a bigger brokerage.
And so again, for us to go in and out of different brokerages is super easy. We're 1099 employees.
Literally a phone call.
It literally is a phone call. We do enough sales that anybody would be happy to welcome our team within that brokerage. So again, this is not a self-serving conversation at all. This is really an open your eye conversation.
And this is not, and I also want to point out this, I'm not saying don't use a bigger brokerages. They have their advantages.
Please do.
I just think that, the complete goal, the overall goal for those brokerages is to make as much money as possible.
Right. We say this all the time. We do. Whether you're a part-time agent, we wouldn't recommend using one, but there are good part-time agents. If you're not local, we don't recommend not using local, but if there are good non-local agents who work in the thing. It's the same thing. We're not saying don't use big brokerages. What we're saying is, if you take the money out of it and you actually look at who it's benefiting.
Who benefits
from exactly. And then it all starts to make sense on why people do certain things.
And I think that's any situation in life is who's really benefiting from this, and why does this person want me to do X, Y, and Z?
Exactly. Which then leads into, which we'll probably talk about in detail. We haven't done it yet. Is cooperation for commission. We talked briefly about that. Again, obviously, Mike and I are. We're for-profits. We're not nonprofit entities, so we do have to make a living.
Right.
So
got a family to feed.
Family to feed. So we did choose this profession, and so we know how volatile it is, up and down, and the ebb and flows of it. So we get all that. And so again, the goal is to find your buyers the property that they want in the time frame they want it, and then for your seller to sell as fast as possible with the best terms and conditions you can possibly get. And to me, that's clear cooperation.
Yeah, absolutely. Open it up to everybody. Bring all the buyers you can through the door to get the best deal. If you have, you list a property, you have 40 showings in a weekend, and you get 10 offers, the best deal possible is in that stack.
Right.
I can assure you.
Right. So again, and we're not going to belabor the point because it seems we're starting to talk in a circle right now.
That's as we do.
Because we do, but it sounds like we're definitely on the same page. So again, as a seller, you have options. That's the great part about a free market, is you're able to make a decision. The goal for us is to make sure that when people watch us, that's an informed decision.
Yeah, you have all the information possible to make the best decision that makes the most sense for you and your family.
That's right. And if that is not putting the property on the market for a whole host of reasons that are personal, understand. But if somebody's trying to pitch you that they have a buyer,
and that's the best option regardless of your situation, who are they serving?
When I did read an op-ed. It just when I was about to talk, it just brought the op-ed back to me. And so what the person was talking about was, this actually wasn't even an op-ed. It was the op-ed I was reading. That was the messages underneath. And this agent was talking about, I just did one and I got my client the best price, and we were $150,000 over the price that I had thought it was worth. And the comment simply back to them was, well, A, you didn't price the property correctly. It sounds like you were trying to just sell it quickly.
Right.
They paid $150,000 over because they probably recognized that. How better would those terms have been had you put that on the market?
$175,000 or $200,000 more.
Possibly, potentially less, right?
Yeah.
We don't know, and I think that's the kicker, because that person who was willing to spend $150,000 over, they're not going away. That offer's still there. And that buyer's still a buyer.
Now, if you can get 10 more buyers in, would you get a better offer?
And that's the point.
Yeah.
And again, that's what you have to look at it. So again, when you're out there looking, if you are a buyer looking and you're always asking for off or trying to find deals that are off market. Actually, what they're asking for us is, do we know of listings coming on before they actually come on, to let them know?
Yeah, because for the most part here, everything hits the market. I'm not aware of any off market. Maybe I don't go out drinking enough with other agents.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a handful of pocket listings out there of people. I mean, we all have clients to say, well, if you had somebody who wants to buy it for this price, I'll sell it. But again, my thing to that person would be is, well, if you're going to sell it, let's put it out to the market at that price, and if you get it, great. If not, we'll just take it off the market.
Right?
We don't need to go that whole thing. So any other things we want to talk about? Weather's starting to break. Hopefully, we're almost going into April now.
70 this weekend.
I know 70 this weekend, so showings are still going well.
Yeah,
offers are still popping in. I would love to see the interest rate come down a little bit.
I think everybody wants to see that.
I do. Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Agents and buyers alike.
Because there's plenty
and sellers.
Because then again, more competition.
Yeah.
Right. Again. So yeah, I think again we're still trucking along. It's end of March. Things are still looking good. Would we want it to be a little bit busier right now? Sure. Because again, I think the interest rates are actually holding us up a little bit.
Rental season's coming, so.
Rental season's coming. Mike's got some rentals he's been posting, so check out his Facebook page as well, and take a look to see what he has as rentals. Other than that, do you think anything else?
No, I think we beat this horse to death.
We did. We beat this one. So we appreciate you tuning in to BeachLife Unlocked. Feel free, as always, to reach out to us if you have any questions. If you just want to have a conversation about a potential listing, or if you're looking to buy and you just don't know who to choose, Mike and I would love to have that introduction.
Have a conversation.
Yeah, come to the office. We'd love to have a consultation. We can go over. We just our esteemed marketing professional Emily has put together this banging seller buyer guide that we have.
Can't wait.
It's pretty. It looks
fantastic.
Impressive. It does. It's literally going to be in color, a book, 56 pages of great information, no filler, just good on it. I mean,
all the information you need to buy or sell.
It does. It's awesome.
Covers it all.
And so we're going to be launching that. That will be probably a link. We'll have that to some PDFs. We'll also have it attached to our email. So again, reach out to us if you have any questions. Feel free to give us a call, email us. Hey, message us. Please go to our YouTube channel as well. And tell your friends and subscribe. Or you can visit our website,
BeachLifeBozeCity.com.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.